So let it be written. So let it be done. This is Tabletop Terrors. I am here by myself. James is actually at Disney with my other brother for his birthday, and I wasn't invited. No, that's not true. I was invited. I just had a ton of work to do. Probably makes me sound like a jerkwater, but that's the truth. So today we're going to do some prep. We are going to jump into StoryForge and their asset packs that they use. So here's what StoryForge is. It's 3 killer AAA artists who put out these different packets of assets, including monsters, maps, items, and lore. And they have what's called a drip. A drip is basically Kickstarter's sort of bootleg Patreon. And so you can check that out in the comments. You can support them on Drip. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this thing. I've not really looked at it, and I'm going to prep a session. And so we're going to jump right in. I want to talk to you about how you prep a session. Well, how do you cook a recipe? Depends on the recipe. So I never prep the same way twice. I go in and I do what I need to do for that game. So the other thing I want to talk about immediately is the clouds and the dirt. The clouds are the high-level ideas that are the sort of inspirational fuel that keep you going through the week. Oh, what about this? What if they face this? What if I kind of have this idea for a theme? Things like that. The dirt is actually taking the time to sit down and write it down and make actual prep notes, like none of us do. So I'm going to do some screen sharing. I'm going to jump through, and we are literally going to just come up with ideas. I am definitely going to be asking the chat what we're going to do, and we'll kind of go from there. So first thing I'm going to do is make myself a Google Doc, because the way that I prep, I typically put a ton of notes in my phone. I email that to myself, and then I drop it into a Google Doc. Because I run most of my games online, I just open up the doc and I have bullets and things like that. So while I do that, I'm going to check the chat. In fact, I'm going to put the chat over here on my other monitor so that I can watch. What's up, Ethan? He says, glad to see you, Tim. I'm excited to see what you have in store today. Actually, he said Tadya and then corrected his spelling. Jose Soto says, ew, Disney. I actually love Disney. I would have loved to have gone to Disney, but we have a ton of stuff going on. And look, as an aside, it's going to, again, it probably sounds awful. I didn't go to Disney on my brother's birthday because I had work to finish. But that is the cost of what I'm trying to get finished right now. I'm paying a price now so that later I can go to Disney with him whenever I want. And so if you are interested in writing RPGs full time, you have to consider those sorts of things where I'm willing to do what perhaps other people aren't because I want things that other people don't have. So, but I will call my brother. In fact, you know what? Let's call my brother Matt and tell him happy birthday. I haven't called him and told him happy birthday yet. So let's do that live on air as viewers just drop. It's fine. You'll be good. Should I risk it and put it on speaker? Oh God, I'm gonna. He doesn't know I'm going to do this. And so he could say anything. I'm going to tell him. Should I tell him he's on YouTube or not? I better tell him. He tends to have a potty mouth. Jory Church says, yes, speaker. He's probably on in the Hall of Presidents.
Please leave your message for
Matt Carney.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Matismus Dorside the Third Esquire. Happy birthday to you. I'm actually doing a YouTube live stream, and I decided to call you right now. I will call you again, because I want to make sure to talk to you on your birthday. But I love you. You're an amazing brother. I can't wait for what the rest of this year and next year holds with some of the projects we have going on. And anyway, I hope you're having fun at Disney. I'm really sorry I couldn't make it. And I'll talk to you soon. All right, bye. All right, we just all said happy birthday to my brother. Now I guess I owe you guys some game prep, huh? So let's screen share, and we'll jump in from here. So the first thing I do, we are talking about the clouds and the dirt. For me, clouds first. So I'm going to open up this StoryForge PDF. I've not looked at it yet, purposefully. I did screenshot the very top of the cover so that I can make a thumbnail. But other than that, I'm going to just kind of go through. Do not be afraid as you're prepping to just be brave and jump around, go crazy. Let yourself free. Don't go into this thinking, okay, I've got my notepad here. All of a sudden, I'm British when I'm trying to be wise. But don't think, okay, there's no magic, there's no logic. It is just getting it done. So as we dive in with a screen share here, I want to make sure you know that it's okay to say, all right, what am I doing? And just start stream of consciousness, like writing stuff down. That is something that I think a lot of us need to get more comfortable with. Let's look here. Let's do, and here we go. Okay, I'm screen sharing. This is Port of Chains, StoryForge's asset pack number 9. If you do join their drip, you will have access to their other PDFs, and they're, like I said, they're really beautiful. So what am I going to do? Let's pretend I downloaded anything. I was inspired by something off of Drive-Thru-RPG or DM's Guild, whatever it is. My first thing I tend to do with books is just give them a glance through, okay? You have a part of your brain that a lot of people call the crocodile brain. It's your instinct. And I trust my instincts. And so what I'll do is I immediately go through and see what catches that part of my brain, okay? I'm in the clouds right now. The dirt, the soil, is the part where we go through and we write things down. We're more methodical, etc. So, but I ain't got time for that now. So let's scroll through this. Looking through. Okay, Port City, Orc in Chains. Okay, skeleton or magic items looking really cool. Okay, sort of like Mayan boat. Awesome looking key. That catches me immediately. Okay, key around the neck. I think we're going to start there. Okay, map, killer map, ruins on the ground. The Jade Falls wreck. All right, this is where we ended. This is where we're going to start. So the Jade Falls wreck, looking here, this is a good map. If you have nowhere else to start and you have a map, that is a good place to start. I'm also, my players are okay with me jumping in and saying, you walk onto the rickety dock. It creaks beneath your feet. You see that it sprawls out in multiple directions, creating parallel lines, and it leads to a, and I start just jumping in. I'm describing the map. I think also a lot of time is wasted on sort of like getting everybody together in the mood. And what do you do? Do you want to walk on the docks? It's like, no. To me, it's a storytelling game. I'm going to set the scene, and then you can do what you want in the kind of the purview of that scene. All right, let's jump to the chat here because I got a bunch of stuff going on. Hey, David Kegg, the creator of this, one of the creators of this PDF, has actually said, happy birthday, Matt. So let's go through. I'm actually going to pull the chat over here. George Church. Yes. Let's see here. Peter. Hey there. Hey, what's up? Roll for your story. Creativity? Just send it. Sapphire 2 says, hello. Ha, 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 ha. All separate lines. Justin Cox. Hey, Tim. Hey. Live and let dies. Got to go to work in a few minutes, but I thought I'd check this out. Hey, thanks for checking it out. It's great to have you. And this is for you. Slancha. What you're looking at is here. Hello. All right. So when I prep a game, what I like to do is come up with, I call it a cool hook. I don't think it's what you think it is. I don't mean local rumors persist that the farmer's having the chicken stolen. It's like, no. For me, I like to come up with cool, high concept and then build out from there. So I've never read this PDF before, but to me, cool, high concept is Orc in Chains, shipwreck, this dock, leads to it's right off of the city. So the Orc in Chains has been shipwrecked onto this small island, and those sort of crazy glyphy like runes that are going on there are what maybe saved his or his life as we go through. Also, if you have any ideas, put them in the chat and we'll talk through those as well. So my cool high concept is there's this sort of berserker, like there's this orc, huge dude in chains. We looked at him. He is going to be the sort of centerpiece for where we start. I'm going to have it so that the shipwreck just came in here. And so it's going to be this high tension sort of the, you know, as the players approach, they're going to start on the docks. That's how I'm just going to narrate where they start. Your players will thank you, I believe, for this sort of jump in. They'll follow you if you have the confidence. Okay. So, you know, from there, it's going to be a matter of they don't know what's in there. So this ship is just crushed on the beach, and it's like these glowing runes that are just in a circle. Maybe they're doing that sort of. Maybe the orc's unconscious. I don't know yet, but I'm going to make my little notes here. And so that'll be the first thing I do. Now, I'm just a terrible bullet pointer, meaning I don't write things out. I just put what I need because I'll figure it out and it'll change during the game anyway. So I'll probably do something like Orc in Chains, shipwrecked, dock scene. No, shipwreck scene. And then that's what I'm going to start with. What do you guys think? What's the chat thinking here? What are we going to do? All right, so far nothing, but that's okay. I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to continue to screen share here. I'm going to use some more of these beautiful assets that they have, but the map just caught my lizard brain. I immediately went with that. So, okay, let's go back. So I have an encounter map here. So now what I'm going to do is scroll up a little bit. All right, looks like there's some skeletons who've been run through. Okay, this is a race, a Reef Dragonborn. They're called Teal Dragonborn. After the race, the Reefborn have similar traits. I am thinking maybe these creatures were the captains of the ship. So I'll probably put one in there that is maybe outside. So looking here, I'm like, all right, where would I put it? Maybe like under the sand or buried under some rubble or something like that, a few hexes away. So what am I doing here? So understand, when I build a scene or when I prep a game, what I typically do is I have a location, some sort of NPC for like role play stuff, and some sort of threat, challenge, or choice. Those three ingredients, and then I just kind of go. Don't get too complex. Don't prep solutions. Just prep a scene that has potential problems. And here's what I mean. If you prep the location and just have a couple of quick sight, sounds, and sensations so that you can basically just describe stuff on the fly, that is going to cover my location. Okay. You can doll it up later, but that's the general idea. So I'm looking, I have a map. So I'm like, all right, cool. I kind of got that. The reason why I put an NPC in a scene is because in the past I have not put NPCs, and the scene feels very two-dimensional for my taste. So what I found is if I put a creature there to interact with the players, that's where the human drama comes from. That's where they have a chance to role play and their character comes out, and choices and moral dilemmas, stuff like that. If I just make this a sort of sterile scene where it's like, okay, it's a shipwreck with a monster in it, there's a layer missing. It's like a cake mix with no eggs, where it's just like, it's kind of there, but it doesn't hold together. So that's what I'm going to do. So I love this Teal Dragonborn. And so if you're in the chat, give me a name for a Teal Dragonborn, the also known as Reef Dragonborn. They're unique among the chromatic dragons, fearsome hunters of fish, protectors of reefs, etc. What's the name of a Teal Dragonborn? Let's see here. What you looking at says, sorry, Bengals are playing with less than a minute left. No, totally understand. Live and let dice. Are sea animals drawn to the runes? Do the stars shine less brightly under the runes? I love both of those things. I'm literally going to copy and paste those questions into my little doc here. Now, here's something else that's really cool. I do not have to answer those questions. Newsflash, it is okay to prep with questions. What? No, I'm the DM. I must have all the answers. No, you don't. You actually don't, because it's actually cooler if you have some things that you haven't decided yet. Because those things unfolding or deciding in the moment, having these options, these audibles, allows you to pivot super easily. Let's see here. Peter says, "Lizard brain, so you're a Yanti now." Let me see here. NPC, a seashore hobo rummaging around the shipwrecks who might have some background information. Love it. Let's throw that in there too. Yep. No reason why we can't have two. So I'm going to do Teal Dragonborn. Still need that name. Haven't gone through the whole chat. But Teal Dragonborn. Guys, don't forget to support StoryForge. It's in the link. You can go check out their drip. It's really reasonable. It's like $5 for the entry, I think, or like 8 to 10. Just go check it out. You can see the art's gorgeous and the concepts are really cool. Super easy to prep from. All right. So we also have a dockside hobo, which I don't know. I'm going to put former adventurer ? We got this map. We got a ship. It's a shipwreck. I think the way that I'm imagining it is it sort of just happened. So the authorities haven't gotten there yet. And so what I'm going to do is put authorities ? Local guards. This is a good thing to have where if you need someone to show up, then the authorities can kind of show up. And now the adventurers and this orc and this dragonborn all look like they came from the shipwreck. And so it can cause a little bit of, Mexican standoff. Like, drop your weapons, drop your weapons. That can be a cool tension builder. You could also use something like that for to end the session, or before you take a quick Cheeto wee-wee break, you just say, oh, and then the guards show up and all draw their swords and you're surrounded. All right, now let's look. All right, we got some really good names. Okay, so we got Live and Let Dice says Shimmer Scales. I love that. Roll for Your Story says Derilax. Logo Sarsgaard says Kybraxis. Jim Moreno says Chalet. Brock Hyder says Kivara or Celeste the Tidebringer. And Kayla Ryu says Based Bubbles Wave Thrower. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to paste all of these into my doc because I don't know which one I want to use yet, but it's really handy to just have names of stuff. So here's an example. If I have the word Shimmer Scales on my list, all that I need to do is if I need, let's say, an item, or if it's like one of the players says, I want to search to see if there's any form of sickness that came with this. Is there, some sort of disease on the boat? All of a sudden they do a medicine check and I'm like, yeah, you see traces of a disease that you've heard of called Shimmer Scales. Boom. But I have a name that I can just pull from. I'm a highly improvisational GM, so I understand if that's not comfortable for you, but I think anyone can use these sort of techniques no matter what level of prep you have. Zool, says Jose Soto. Peter says, how about meeting the guards when the characters are already inside the ship? It's perfect. Here's the big if they go inside the ship. But yes, having that in mind, so I'll paste that into the doc. Let's see here. Corey Trigger Erdner says, hey, Tim, thanks for running this. Of course, man. I hope to hear some ideas from you and feel free to ask any questions. I didn't say that also. If you have questions for me, please feel free to ask questions. What you looking at mentioned the game. I'm not going to spoil it in case anybody's planning on watching it later, but that is actually good to hear. All right. So I have my rough location. I have at least the high level concept of my NPCs. So I think for now, let's call the Tide Hobo. We're going to call him Bubbles. And that is so the Tide Hobo is going to be called Bubbles. Based Bubbles Wave Throw. So, and I'm going to take that name that was suggested. Very good name. And then for the dragon, I'm actually going to go with Chalet. I'm going to go with Jim Moreno's Dragonborn. Okay. Now I just have these names. I don't know. I'll go back later. Okay. Right now I'm just I'm mixing clouds and dirt. I'm mixing ideas and writing. I usually don't do that, but what are we going to do? All right. So now we go back to our PDF. All right. So now the thing I need to do is come up with some sort of challenge, or so I've got some players. I have not touched the orc that's going to be in chains inside there yet, but I think that I'm also, what I want to do is come up with some sort of moral dilemma, some reason why the players need to intervene. One of my biggest problems as a game master was previously, there would be no actual definitive challenge or question or threat. It would just be this sort of scene, and it plays out kind of weird and flat. So like this key. So the driver's key, it's a wonders item, legendary. The universe is defined by dualities, good versus evil. I'm trying to avoid just coming straight out and reading the PDF because I don't want to bore you, and I'm trying to keep that like kind of quick prep. But the driver's key, it's brutally simple application of opposed forces, good and evil. When turned to the right, the key opens any lock. When turned to the left, it places a cursed lock on those mechanisms that can only be opened by the driver's key. So my immediate thought is the Dragonborn has the driver's key. She, I'm going to make it a female, is clutching it. So I'm just making a note. Clutching driver's key. Okay. Now the idea is this orc, right? I think it's an orc. I'm assuming it's an orc. We're going to look up. It might not be. But the idea is that this key is needed. And so here on the beach, what I'm probably going to do is, put her right in reach. Now the orc is waiting. He's biding his time. He is waiting. And so, but it's going to be a cool kind of mysterious thing, because now what I can do, I'm going to type in glowy and red, making hard to decipher. So here's what I'm going to do in my head, at least. This is the part that I probably won't write down. She has this key. So when the players approach, there are those red runes, which are that's the lock. That's going to be the lock sort of emanating from the orc. But this, I'll throw it this way. You see a large, vaguely humanoid figure dug into the dirt. They don't move. But in what looks like a large hand, eerie red light is bleeding forth from in between their fingers, similar to the light that is coming from the shipwreck. Those traces of runic circles on the ground, the red light matches. That strange red light is casting strange shadows. It's difficult to tell what the figure is. You'll have to get closer or get creative to find out. And I just let them roll with it. But now I've thrown them a sort of a mini issue, a mini challenge, a mini problem, meaning weird, ominous figure on the beach. Here you go. And then this is where it gets really cool, okay? Because most players, they're going to just figure out, well, what would my character do? And that's where druid's maybe going to try to do druidy stuff. Fighter's going to do fightery stuff. So I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't have an outcome planned, right? I can't state that enough. I don't have an outcome planned. I don't have and when they get the key, they might not get the key. Your players will always surprise you. So don't have your mind set on, okay, well, when they grab the key, this is going to happen. Because here's what could happen. They get up, they approach, they use their cool powers, cast light, whatever they do, They see that it's this teal dragonborn covered in blood, you know, scarred from the shipwreck, maybe like a dagger wound in the ribs, whatever. And they might see the key and go, nope, not going to do it. So if you've planned on them grabbing the key, you now have a couple of choices. You either railroad them into grabbing the key, which doesn't feel fun for me anyway, or you're now stuck like, well, so again, I'm okay with, okay, I leave it there. The first thing that I'm going to kind of throw at them is this dragonborn has the key. What happens next? All right. So let me check the chat. All right. Bubbles the Tide Hobo. He'll trade you stories for booze. Well, let's see here. At the end of every sentence, Bubbles has to... That's what Roll for Your Story says. Logo Sarsgaard. Let's think of reason why this orc might be chained up. Perhaps he was the former captain and his crew mutinied. Love it. I'm also open to any other ideas, but I'm going to put that in the doc as well. And again, this is another place where I'm going to do orc prisoner. This is another place where I'm going to just ask questions. Okay. Because in the moment, I might change my mind, but I'm going to give myself a few options. Some game masters aren't comfortable with this, but it's where I thrive. So I'm going to put, let's think of reasons why this orc might be chained up. Perhaps he was the former captain and his crew mutinied. I want to give you another huge tip. Unanswered questions are some of the most fun things in a D&D game. Don't feel the need to tell the players everything up front. Them finding out why that orc is chained up could be a whole separate scene of roleplay with the orc. So, you know, sometimes as DMs, we're trying to be clear, and in being clear, we're info dumping. So we'll say, yeah, and this orc's chained up. He's obviously a prisoner from the such and such isles of the blah, blah, blah. Leave that as an unanswered question, because I just like to float stuff like that out there. And then if I can tie it in a cool way, or if the players have a better idea than I ever would, yep. So if they're like, guys, hold on. Tim, do the chains match the same chains as the slave keepers from, you know, lower sphere? And I'm like, yes, they do. You know, like, so by giving them the info, it takes away their ability to answer, or sorry, to ask questions. So let's see here. All right. We have a couple more comments, and I'm going to jump back in. Is the shape of the key in the center of the circle? Yes, it is. In the map, it is in the center of the circle, which I think would sort of clue them in that, hey, this is the thing you got to do. Perhaps he only got tangled up in a load of chains as he tried to flee the ship. Maybe. He said float. It's Jim Moreno. David Keck says, LOL, love that DM trick. Let the players make up a better story than you have. It's one of my favorites. Logo says, drop in knowledge, Tim. I love the idea of leaving stuff open. It was my biggest thing. I wouldn't do that. And then I'm trying to keep track of it. And the players feel like you're telling them a story. They're not playing and choosing the path of a story. So let's jump back in and drink some more. Got to save enough for a toast at the end here. Okay. Back to the old screen sharing. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out. If you have not checked out StoryForge yet, like I said, you can do so in the comments. If you're enjoying this and if you like this sort of stuff, subscribe. And we are hoping to do more things like it in the near future. All right. So let's scroll back up through. Really, really cool picture. Here's the key. I also, it makes some people's teeth itch that I'm working from the back of the PDF up. But if this thing doesn't inspire me, then it's not doing its job. So there's no right way to be inspired, is my point. So if it's more comfortable for you to start at the beginning and go to the end, well, then I challenge you. Don't be comfortable. If you continue to use the same methods, you'll have the same kinds of ideas statistically. So shake yourself up. do something different. If you want different prep, put in different input. Don't expect different output if your input's always the same. All right, let's see here. The Sinasoa. It's a magical boat. I don't know what you're thinking, but I'm thinking here's the outside threat. Okay. Someone in the chat, roll me a D6 if you can. And I'm going to read some comments here. Seth Long says, well, what is the racial makeup of the setting? Are orcs commonplace? If not, could it be the orc is the first of its kind discovered and he's heavily chained up due to his strength? I love that. I absolutely love that. So we're going to just go with that. Right? So Seth, that's what it is. These particular, and even if orcs are popular in the setting, this particular gray-skinned orc is not. So I'm going to put that under my orc notes. Good call. All right, we got a couple of rolls here. All right, so the first roll was a 3. Here's what we're going to do, and that was Jose Soto. When things engage in 3 time units, okay, that is when a ship is going to appear on the horizon. Now, I'm not going to decide that now. What do you mean? Well, I'll give you an example. Let's call it 3 rounds. I'm going to say in 3 rounds, that ship is going to appear on the horizon. It is his people coming to get him. But I can't know the pacing of the session right now. So I'm going to put in quotes 3 time units. The boat appears. And I forgot the name of it already. Let's see here. The Sinasoa. So in 3 time units, the Sinasoa appears. Well, what do I mean? Well, what I mean is if they start combat, then it's 3 rounds. If it's not combat, then maybe it's 3 story beats. If it's a very fast-paced, like just the session's going nuts and the fighter runs off the dock and holds a knife to the Dragonborn's throat, maybe I'll do 3 real-world minutes. But this is something that will happen. So the Sinasoa is going to appear, and it's going to be full of other orcs, question mark? Maybe not. Maybe it'll be subservient, monstrous humanoids. I don't know. Now, here's the cool thing. If I'm doing this, right? So I've got this going. If this is my first little thing of prep, I would run straight from this, by the way. I would open up this notepad and I would kind of just read through it about 10 minutes before the game. And then I would just roll with it. But if you are comfortable with a higher level of prep than that, which is totally fine, what I recommend is still coming up with this sort of, idea storm. Just get it on there. And then the next time you prep, maybe the night before your game or a few hours before, you can take these details and write them out a little more cohesively and maybe, put more detail in. This is my prep method, though. This is even more than I would normally do just because I wanted to use the PDF. But I've learned for me, if I put a little more prep in, 15 to 30 minutes, the game just goes better because I'm kind of in my zone. My shoulders are down. I feel like I'm not having to work to improv the whole thing. Let's check the chat one more time. A lot of good rolls. Okay, he was to be put on display. Maybe, Peter. I'm going to put that in there too. And something else. So I'm putting all these questions in, right? One of the things I found is if you have multiple ideas, check this out. Give those ideas to different characters. Now they have opposed ideas, and that matters. So here's why. That is the source of conflict. Okay, so if I have one person who says, no, this orc is a prisoner, and he must be put to death or imprisoned, then you have another who says, we can make so much money if we put these on display. Now they have opposing reasons. So if these crew members survived, the players will now have an option of who they side with. I love that. Excuse me. Jim Moreno says, the ship was used as an orc secret organization mobile black site where they tortured others for information. I love it. So that's what we're going to do. And then You know, and you can decide whether that's the Sinasoa or the shipwreck. That's up to you. But again, putting all these things in there, I bulleted it all out so that I just got stuff to pull from. So if the players start poking around and asking questions, I'm not going to come right out and say, this ship was used as an orc secret organization mobile black site. But I'll say, as you look around, you can see that it appears in the way the ship is set up, that there's a seat in the center. There's dried blood. Looks like claw marks all around it, as though people tried to escape. There's manacles, and there's not much else in this room aside what looks like crude torture implements. On one of the tables, it's spilled from the crash, or if it's on the Sinasoa. On one of the tables, you see in Dwarven or whatever, different notes, and there are signed confessions. So now I don't know. Who's doing this? I don't know. I don't have to know, but the players will start thinking, what confessions? What did they say? Can you read one to me? Depending on who your players are, for me, I'm fine with going, this is just my style. I am super the kind of GM that would say, you know, I really don't have any specific confessions planned, but if you give me a minute, I'll come up with one. But in the meantime, does anybody want to take a stab at one that might fit the game? And that's okay. The DM does not have to be all-knowing and all-prepared. And so take that weight off your shoulders, and you'll find that you'll have more fun. The thing that I would do is I'd say, hey, I really don't have any confessions planned, but we can come up with one collaboratively, or does anybody have any ideas? The players then will usually come up with some cool stuff to tie it in. So let's say that our swashbuckling rogue decides that his partner in crime has a confession signed right here. He recognizes the name. Now he has a vested interest. He wants to discover. He wants, right? So if your players know that that's your style, where you kind of go, hey, what this is a little plug and play opportunity for them to put some backstory in there. And if you train them that that's okay, and if they start to get the vibe that that's how you run things, they'll start to get better at it. And that can be a third of tying the campaign together, is just them giving you things from their backstory that sort of links into what you're coming up with. That's why I can get away with prep notes that are so light. Ooh, a lot of good comments here. Oh, yeah, there's all kinds of great stuff. I won't have time to read all of this, but I'm going to read some of them. Seth says the ship was bringing him to be shown to the crown. They have no idea just how strong he was. After several deaths in the crew, they decided to chain him abundantly, ensuring their safety. Looks like what you're looking at says, maybe he's a lycanthrope and they chain him up for everyone's safety. Exactly. Maybe he's some sort of were creature. Kayla, the shipwreck is used as a trap. The orc is actually a puppet, a distraction. The new ship is the real threat, filled with the reef-born dragonborn. That's awesome. So they're like these tide raiders. So they have like, you know, basically these dummy ships that are already they probably tow them and then sort of like float them into shore, get everything ready. And then, yeah, that's awesome. A lot of good stuff. I will come back to this, but I want to go back to the PDF. And then just get to a place where I would say, okay, I'm prepped, and then ask some questions of you. So, and also David, one of the artists who worked on this PDF, is in the chat. So David, if there's anything in particular that you want to throw in there, feel free. This next section is magic items. Storm in a bottle. Looks like the Reef Queen's helm. Like, this is all awesome. So immediately this makes me think museum ship. So I'm going to put that here. Museum ship. So under my Sinasoa notes, I'm going to say, they want the goods. Because I don't know, maybe that's what it is. Maybe they're following. They don't even care about the orc, but really what they want is the belt of buoyancy or the coral weave bracelets or bracers. These are really powerful. A lot of these, so like wondrous item, sting bolt harpoon gun. That's awesome. Okay. So immediately this thing is so rad that what I think I want is, I'm going to put some notes here. On the ship. This is where it gets tricky because I'm like, this is really awesome. If the Sinasoa rolled up and started like, you know, with these, but I also like the idea of this sort of like this bleeding. So there's this bleeding dragonborn inside. Okay. And he's just, he doesn't have enough strength to shoot the crossbow. So he's just standing there twitching and the players can kind of try to grab it, or maybe the orc grabs it. I don't know. I just know that I'm going to put Sting Bolt Harpoon ? And then what I would do, because I prep online, I would take this. Okay, I use the snipper in Windows. And so I would take the snipping tool, right? And I would just copy, and then I'd paste that right into my notes. So I have the stat block that I need if I want to use it. Boom. So I got that done. Let's keep going up. So I would pick and choose because I also don't want to overwhelm them if, depending on how the realm is. I might even make some of these things mundane items, because if I just fill a ship with all magic items, it's going to be, the players are probably going to take them. So you got to just be really careful that immediately you're like, cool, now they have this choker and these bracers, and all of a sudden you got this paladin decked out in full like tier 1 raid gear from World of Warcraft, because your intention was, oh, it's going to be a museum ship. And then they're like, what? Sweet, we'll steal all this stuff. So I might un-magic item these things and just make them all sort of just these teal dragonborn relics or things like that. And then what I would do is whichever one the players gravitate toward, or, you know, oh, this is the coolest one, then I'm like, hey, check it out. It's actually a magic item. That sort of thing. So let's look here. All right. So the chained. Oh, okay. Sinasoa, the driver. And then the chained. Okay, the chain, cruel lash. Okay, so what this is, and this is actually really cool. This is a template. I don't know if you caught that. This is a template to put on top of a monster. So, okay, the enslaved minions of the driver can take any form that is appropriate to your campaign, but the driver's baleful influence imparts the following features and abilities. So, essentially, it's a template. So again, I'd grab this and I'd drop it in, and then what I would do is I would take a monster that fits this world and this campaign. I'd probably flip through the monster manual, go on D&D Beyond, and I'd find something of an appropriate challenge rating, and then I'd slap this on top of it. And so again, I have not read StoryForge's vision for this, because here's why. This was to show you that you can go and get a piece from StoryForge, from Absolute Tabletop, from Cobalt, from Wizards, and there's no rules to being inspired. I don't have to read this thing. Now, the cool thing is, as I do this, I get a feel for it. Now, if I have some spare time on my lunch breaks, things like that, what I can do is go back through, read it, and run it entirely differently, or have the big bad return, things like that. Let me check the chat. All right. Tons more amazing comments. Hello. Awesome. Says, oh, Michael Maitland's here too. What's up, man? Actually, I'm going to jump up to Brock. Brock says, a bounty has been placed on the orc, causing numerous expeditions to seek the rare specimen, but now numerous crews arrive to claim the reward from the wreckage. This is awesome. If you have multiple boats start showing up on the horizon, and all of them are here for the bounty, that would be interesting. Hello says, the trust you guys at AbTab put in each other during the games is something I truly want at my table. You just throw the ball to each other and trust each other. It's truly epic. Trust is built. And it requires everyone kind of having the same idea of what's fun, which can be interesting. But that's why it's important to play, in my opinion. The games that I have time for, I devote to playing with people that I know share the same kind of thoughts and philosophies. And even if it's a very different execution, the way that you're saying, like, I throw the ball to them, I know their passion is for the best story. So I trust them with that, whatever shape it takes in. So thank you. Logo says, I'm thinking back to Winds of Sorceline as an inspiration for this piece of advice. Throwing stuff at your players is amazing. Yeah, it's really... and the players might not like it at first, and if they don't like it, don't force it on them. That's also totally fair. The thing to consider is, and I don't know why this isn't more common, but I have taken to just explaining things very clearly. Like, I just say, hey guys, I would like to try in this session. I'm going to throw some things to you to describe, and let's just try it out. And if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, we'll scratch it. Immediately, the players are going to be a little more open to it, I think, because they understand what you're trying to do. A lot of techniques, I think, fail because the players don't understand what you're trying to achieve. And so when you use these new things on them, it can seem like it falls flat, but it's because they don't understand yet. But if you go in with that mission statement, oh, sure, I'll try that. And if they know that they can fail, David says, haha, I'm just grinning from ear to ear about everyone's stories that we could inspire. Exactly, man. It's so good. And David says, yes, y'all got the gift. Great ideas. Jim Moreno says, orc first encounter. I love that. Like that is actually a really cool concept. Roll for Story says, the Dragonborn was in the process of freeing the orc when the wreck happened, and something is preventing the Dragonborn from reaching him. Severely wounded, mortally wounded. Maybe Brock says, maybe have a ticking clock. The orc is drowning. All these things. All of these things, right? So here's the thing. Each of you is going to run a different session, but the cool thing is by involving the players and seeing what they gravitate toward and what they latch onto. That's why I leave questions in my prep doc. That's why I have bullet points. Because for me, it's like coming together to sort of like make a piece of music together or to jam out, where I'm going to see what the tone is. What's everybody's mood that night? Is everybody feeling jazzed, or is everybody a little sleepy? Is everybody feeling a little sad because something happened in the real world news and maybe they don't want to play a light, funny game, or maybe they're all just in a goofy mood and everybody's laughing. I'm one of those DMs that has learned to just roll with that. Okay. So if everybody comes in and they're giggling and having this crazy time, I've learned that I have a better night overall making stories with my friends and family if I just go with the tone that's already set. And I just let them have a little fun. So if I had some serious thing planned where the orc is talking about genocide and all this other stuff, look, if everybody's joking and laughing and, you know, ripping hot Gandhis at the table, I'm just going to roll with it and we're going to have a fun time. So anyway, that's kind of an aside, but let's go along with, let's go ahead and we'll scroll up. I'm going to share the PDF here. And I think we're nearing the end of our prep, at least where I would end. I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of things that I can do when we start. I'd have to just do a little homework and figure out what I was going to use for my stat block for the chained. As Josh Glisson said in the chat, the art is top notch. And that's exactly right. StoryForge is really great at that. And here's the blurb on the driver, which I believe is the name of that. What we're calling the orc. I don't know if it really is. Reed's Landing. Okay, cool. So here's like my little place that I can use to set everything. Now, we sometimes get really nervous and we want to have this whole city over here in the background. Here's what I used to do. I used to over prep because I'd be like, well, what if they want to go in the city? What if they want to? It's fine. If they want to go in the city, it's fine. But I'm not going to prep a whole city. Sorry. That's not what I want to spend my time doing. So, what I would probably do is use a real city and reskin it. So like I would probably use like real life seaside town. And if you're not familiar with one of those, or if you're like, I wouldn't be able to do that, then two things. One, either just say to your players, oh, cool. All right. And paint it positively. Guys, this is a really cool opportunity. I didn't really prep the city. So if you want to describe to me what you want to do, I can give you some ideas as to where you might find something like that. And you have this cool piece of art, so you can totally just draw from that. Okay. So like I'm looking here and I'm like, all right, so guardhouse. Like I'm just looking around at different things and I'm like, all right, cool. Oh, you want to find a blacksmith? Cool. I think the blacksmith is this squat little building with the 3 windows right here. Okay, cool. I go inside. What does it look like? Well, it's a seaside town. What do you think it would look like? Let's brainstorm. Oh, I think there should be these cool like pieces of driftwood that hold up the weapons. And now all of a sudden you're building this tavern or this guardhouse or this blacksmith together. And that's what the game's about for me anyway. So all that to say, Reed's Landing. So this is a fun little place to, get some inspiration if you need to. What I'd probably do is come through here and make bullet points. I'm a huge bullet point guy. Yeah. And I think that's pretty much it besides the orc. So here's what I would do. For me, one of my biggest mistakes also used to be the bad guy's just static. He's waiting for the good guys. So here's what I would do. I need to give him something that he wants. And it's okay if it's general or kind of vague. So here's what I mean. Again, kind of going half the way there, not figuring out every detail, but going half the way. So here, what if I said this? The orc wants to make it to the tower in the middle of the city. That's it. That's his goal. That's his motivation. You don't have to have some nefarious plot. You don't have to Google World War II and figure out why Hitler was evil and all this. The orc wants to get to the center. Here's what that does for you. It helps you with the actions and the motivations of that orc in the combat. So like if he escapes, he swims away. Like you don't know. Sometimes that's where we'll get stuck is we'll be like, he fights you. And it's like, no, to me, having a goal, even if it's something general, makes it so that when the orc gets free, it surprises everyone. Because it's like, he runs. And you see him start running toward the docks. And he disappears into the town. And that's where we'll end it today. What? What? So, and maybe it won't be such a perfectly timed ending, but the idea is that now, if the players know that there's something in the city that the orc wants, they'll start asking questions and the cycle starts over again. Well, why would he be doing that? I know what it is. He's probably working for the mage. Blah, 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 they're all throwing you plot hooks. Let me go to the chat. And then we'll do some final comments, some Q&A, and then I think we'll end it here. All right. Michael Maitland says, when you were talking about torture happening on the ship with something on a severed hand on the table was the first thing that came to my mind, maybe with a bloody hatchet still embedded on the table. Right, exactly. Some really foreboding stuff that's like, oh, there's some unsavory stuff happening here. And then Michael says, arriving late, how long has the ship been here? We kind of decided that it was recent, within the hour. The local militia hasn't gotten out to it yet, but the adventurers happened upon it. So it just shipwrecked very recently. And then Michael says, pulling players in with the goal of creating the campaign, maybe for publication, sounds like an awesome way to flush out big ideas. Exactly. And then he says he's currently stuck in his current campaign on what happens when the players go to the big city after being in the wilderness. So here's what I would recommend. It's going to sound extremely basic. If I want to make my wife happy with what I cook for dinner, sometimes it's really cool to surprise her with her favorite. But most of the time on a day-to-day basis, it's better if I just ask her what she's in the mood for. So it's, again, and I don't think you were here, Michael, for this part of the stream, but as a DM, sometimes we put a lot of weight on our own shoulders. And my recommendation to you would be like, hey guys, I'm prepping the city portion. We've been playing a lot in the wilderness, and I just want to see what are some things that would interest you in the city. Or, you know, you can ask also some other questions, but that's a very meta one, which is what would interest you in the city? What kind of, you know, games do you want to play? What kind of sessions do you think would be fun in the city? Let them tell you, because then there's no guessing. It's just, oh, cool. You guys want to do a sort of mystery thing? All right, I can work something like that out. But with just guessing, you come up with something that's awesome, right? And you put all this work into it, and they're in the mood for a mystery, so your chase scene falls flat. You know what I mean? So yeah, that would be my recommendation, is just talk to the players. Hey, what do you guys want to do? Now, the cool part is you get to still go away and dream it all up in the lab and surprise them with how you execute it. And I think that's a really good balance. Jim Moreno says Lankmar. I don't know what that is, but it's awesome sounding. Is that a real name of the city, or should this be the name of the city? Because I'm going to copy and paste that. And if it's, put it in my prep notes. I think the next step is for me to try to run this thing, which would be cool. Maybe I'll put up an interest post in the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group. That's where I post my interest for games. And if you mention in that, post that you were here in the live stream, you will get first priority. What you looking at says, help me help you. Exactly. Jim Moreno, I'd pull from what happened during my army years when we returned to the rear. Bads, food, and sex. Not always in that order. And honestly, man, that's awesome. Like, giving the players that option, what I would do is I'd steer your character toward this specific district where all those things are happening. But then I'd take, if the other player said they wanted a mystery, I'd have a murder happen there. So you get what you want, and then I get to pull in what the other players want. And that's honestly just a cool, like, I call it letting it breathe. Like, inhale, exhale. You give, you take. You prep, you let happen, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah, so this has been phenomenal. Thank you all for tuning in. I just want to give you a couple final reminders. One, pick up StoryForge's new pack. It is available right now. It's called Port of Chains, and you can see everything that I saw and more. You can pick it up on DriveThruRPG, which is, the link is in the comments. Also, if you are around and you have not backed it yet, we have a Kickstarter going on called Shadows over Drift Chapel. If you like the prep style I just did, we wrote a book that helps you do it. It's called an adventure kit. And the one that we have kickstarting currently is Flintlock Fantasy with like a Lovecraft twist. Check it out. Thank you everyone for tuning in and for helping prep and for giving me ideas and for doing sick dice rolls. May you mend the first break. May you kill the first snake. And may you conquer everything you undertake. Sláinte. Until next time, may your dice roll high.